The questions that bring us to practice and keep us coming back to the cushion. Who am I? What is this life I am living? Am I fully living? May or may not get resolved in our lifetimes. In part because our lives take place someplace between the germination of those questions and the answers themselves, within those Bardo states between here and there. Over the weekend during our retreat, Gyero Sensei gave a talk that I highly recommend checking out. It's posted on the website now, and it's also up on the Facebook page, I noticed, and it really seemed to be outstanding to me. And one of the things in the talk that really grabbed me is he used the words life, death as one word, not separated from each other, in the way we talk about heart-mind as being one inseparable thing. And it really grabbed me. Our karma is perpetually giving life to our life and surrendering bits of our life into death. Our cells die off, we shed hair, we leave jobs, homes, relationships, we leave behind old ideas and paradigms, and we constantly create new ones, new friendships, discover new strengths, deepen our practice. For me, I'm missing my tonsils and my ovaries and cervix and uterus and part of my colon, a bunch of bone where my vertebrae grind together where I have herniated discs. And my hair gets longer, my nails keep growing. I think my nose and ears are supposed to be growing for the rest of our lives. So it's literal, it's not hypothetical. And this is how we live and die. But how are we actually doing this being thing in these Bardo and between states as we live, die? What are we actually doing? Because we're doing all of this simultaneously, yet also consciously and with intention. So how are we being here in this room, now, tonight, in this decade of our lives, this week? We're fortunate to have found this practice, which brought us here together tonight, giving us glimpses of the possibility of intimacy and awakenedness. There was a little piece in, I don't know if anyone's seen this book, Most Intimate. It's Roshi Pat Enkyo O'Hara, who is based in New York City. She's in our lineage. She's our kind of Dharma aunt. She was a student and ordained by Maezumi Roshi, who started this lineage. And she became a teacher while she was studying with Bernie Glassman. And she wrote, I joined a Zen community where everyone practiced together, not only sitting meditation, studying and hearing talks, but also cleaning floors, washing dishes. I listened to others struggling with the same issues of my own, and bit by bit, I became aware of myself, not just as me, but as part of, not just as part of me, but as part of other beings in my immediate environment. The me was not a fixed or solid thing. I began to feel a little bit like a bird that flies free without a track to fly on. Birds just fly, fish just swim. How would it be to feel like that? To flow, just to flow with life as it is. Lin Shi, the great and famous 9th century Zen master, said, there is a self, a true person of no rank that just flows in and out of the holes in your face. How amazing to experience your true self simply as flowing. Breathing in, you breathe in the whole universe. Breathing out, you breathe out the whole universe. Here is this self as me and you, as the sky, as the mist of yesterday, as the sun of this afternoon, and the rain next fall. All are me and you. What could be more intimate than that? That was gorgeous. So I'm reading this really cool book now. It's Pico Iyer, and it's called The Art of Stillness, Adventures in Going Nowhere. And I highly recommend this. Have you read it?
Oh, that sounds good.
It's wonderful. He was a travel writer and had been working at the pinnacle of his field. Had a 25th floor office building, had a Park Avenue apartment, had brilliant, interesting, fun to be with friends, and was always going somewhere and doing these great things. And something started kind of feeling out of place with all of this. And he started wondering what going nowhere would be like. And he went to the monastery at Mount Baldy and sat down with Leonard Cohen, who was one of his favorite writers, songwriters, and wanted to learn what he was doing being a monk when he had walked away from a really successful career to just sit and face a wall on a mountaintop. So the two of them spent a week together, and during that time Leonard Cohen said, sitting still can be real, profound, voluptuous, and delicious. It seemed to me that the most luxurious and sumptuous response to the emptiness of my own experience. He said, sitting still was a way of falling in love with the world and with everyone in it. That last sentence came as, what was I going to do next? Have another big record, do another tour, sleep with more women, do more drugs? Did that. Decided to turn inward and started finding things that were much more interesting than what seemed like a really fabulous, interesting life to a lot of us. So when I read that the other day, I thought of the opening passage in this book by Maezumi Roshi. If you're not familiar with the Appreciate Your Life book, it's full of wonderful talks. And since Gakyo mentioned recently that we have this big resource of an archive of all of his talks, and that we'd be introducing them somehow, I thought I'd read part of one of the talks. And this one is the first one in the book where the title comes from Appreciate Your Life. So bear with me, I'm going to read like 3 pages of this. No one can live your life except you. No one can live my life except me. You are responsible. I am responsible. But what is your life and what is your death? In Soto, we have the expression, the treasury of the true Dharma I and the subtle mind of nirvana. This expression comes from a famous koan which relates the transmission of the Dharma from our original teacher, Shakyamuni Buddha, to his successor, Mahayashapa. In the story, Shakyamuni Buddha held up a flower and blinked. Mahayashapa smiled, and Shakyamuni Buddha said, I have the treasury of the true Dharma I and the subtle mind of nirvana, and I transmit it to Mahayashapa. So what is this treasury of the true Dharma I and the subtle mind of nirvana that Shakyamuni transmitted? All the Buddhist teachings deal with this most precious treasure, and it's your life. It's my life. Another way of asking the question is, who am I? What is this? These inquiries are fundamental, most important koans, and like all koans, they must be answered from out of our own life. What is our life? And knowing what it is, how are we living it? How can we experience the life we are living now as infinite, literally limitless life, as subtle as the mind of nirvana? But the irony is that we are all living such a life, we are all living this treasure, and we are also not quite living it either. In other words, our life is no other than the treasury of the true Dharma I and the subtle mind of nirvana, and yet we see it as something other than this. We do not see that our life right here, right now, is nirvana. Maybe we think that nirvana is a place where there are no problems, no more delusions. Maybe we think nirvana is something very beautiful, something unattainable. We always think that nirvana is something very different from our own life. But we must really understand that nirvana is right here, right now. How is this possible? How can we say that our practice is to close the gap between what we think our life is and what our life, actual life, as a subtle mind of nirvana? Or to put it to the point, how can we realize that there really is no gap to begin with? Do not be dualistic. Truly be one with your life as the subtle mind of nirvana. That is what subtle means. Something is subtle not because it is hidden, nor because it is elusive, but because it is right here. We don't see it precisely because it is right in front of us. In fact, we are living it. When we live it, we don't think about it. The minute we think about it, we are functioning in the dualistic state, and we don't see what our life is. Why is this so difficult to do? Pin down what the difficulty is and where it comes up. Most of us know that this I is somehow blocking us. I am the one who does not see my life as the subtle mind of nirvana. I am the one who is not completely experiencing life as treasure. So what is this I that is blocking this realization? It is my dualistic functioning. There is nothing wrong with duality itself. That is how our mind functions. But as long as we remain in the confinement of duality, we are swayed by such opposing values as right and wrong, good and bad. And these are only temporary aspects. Something appears sometimes to be good or bad or right or wrong, or long or short, or big or small. But what is it overall? The same thing with our life. We must see what is beyond duality. Our life literally comes down to right now, here. What is it? One understanding of life and death is that life and death to the instant. According to Dogen Zenji, the founder of Japanese Soto Zen, Shakyamuni Buddha said that in 24,000 hours, we get to the big numbers later, in 24 hours, our life is born and dying, rising and falling, 6,499,980 times. So in 1 second, our life is born and dies around 70,000 times. Our conscious mind cannot even imagine such an occurrence. So what kind of life is this? We usually think of our life as 50 years, 60 years, maybe at the most around 100 years. I once read that there are about 3,300 people who are more than 100 years old at any given time, the oldest being around 112. What are people doing living such long lives? Dogen Zenji said that living a long life without awareness is almost a crime. On the contrary, he emphasized that even if you live one day with a clear understanding of what life is, the value of that day is equal to many years of living without awareness. We are all so concerned with how long we live, and we feel that living 80, 90, or 100 years is a wonderful life. Maybe so, but wonderful compared to what? Compared to those who die young? We must see our life clearly. The existence of this life at this very moment, what is it? Being born and dying 70,000 times this very moment. What is it? It is such a different life for a man, a woman, a young person, an old person, a human being. Is it different for other beings? Is such a life dualistic? Is it relative or absolute? All our usual considerations and understanding about what our life is make no sense if we are born and dying 70,000 times in an instant. Dogen Zenji says that because our life is this, we attain realization. We do not practice in order to attain realization. In fact, we practice. We do not need to expect anything when we practice. Why not? Because everything is already here. Our life is this wisdom. Our practice is this realization. When we see our life beyond duality, beyond thinking and non-thinking, then everything is already none other than the treasury of the true Dharma I and the subtle mind of nirvana. When we think in dualistic terms, our life is restricted. I am, you are, this is good, this is bad, and at the same time our life has no boundary. Since we are born and die each moment, in each instant of our life is not limited by the time and space. Everything is right here and right now. So our life is limited when we think dualistically, and at the same time, it is not limited. It does not matter whether you are a man or woman, young or old, a monk or lay person. The treasury of the true Dharma I and the subtle mind of nirvana is anybody, everybody. All of us have abundant opportunities to experience our life in this way at this very moment. How can we realize the supreme way manifesting as our life? For whether we realize it or not, being born and dying, renewing our life thousands of times per second, we are always living this unsurpassable life, just as we are. How do we realize this? You just be. You just do. We live this life with awareness. We realize that there is no division between this life and the supreme way. No division between this life and the subtle mind of nirvana. We realize the life itself, the life we are living, has no innate division. So, after I read this, I thought of this verse that's in the Mumonkan at the very end, case 47, Tazotsu's 3 barriers. In the capping verse, he writes, "This one instant, as it is infinite number of kalpas. An infinite number of kalpas are the same time, this only one instant. If you see this fact, the true self, which is seeing, has been seen into." A kalpa is a really, really long time. There's one estimate that put it at 4.32 billion years. So, this one instant, as it is infinite number of kalpas. An infinite number of kalpas are at the same time this one instant. If you see into this fact, the true self, which is seeing, has been seen into.